Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Naya and this is Knit by Naya. We're doing podcast number 2. So I know it's been a while. I think the last time I filmed my first podcast was last year, maybe around the holidays in December. So it's been a long time and I have since finished many projects. I've started a bunch of new things that are in progress, and there's a couple items that I've gifted since then that I don't have with me, but I'll still mention them. There haven't been that many yarn acquisitions, but the 2 that I can think of, I will also mention them. So without further ado, let's get started. So I have my notebook with me here. I've been slacking a little keeping my notes, but I just wrote down everything, all of the recent finished objects with the yarn that I used, the size that I knit, the needles, all of that information. So let's get started from where I most recently left off. Actually, before we get started, I have to mention the sweater that I'm wearing right now. This is my Maggie cardigan. It is currently missing buttons, so I added this tie. I actually harvested the buttons from this to use for the object that I'm about to talk about. And in the meantime, I just have this tie because I think I want to find some smaller buttons. The ones that I had were kind of hanging off this double knit button band. It's a little bit narrow, but I kind of like the look of that, so I just need smaller buttons. But yeah, I feel very whimsical and very festive for the spring. But anyways, the first object that I want to talk about is also a Maggie cardigan, except it's a modified version. So I don't actually have the object with me here. I left it at my home in New York, and it has since then been packed away because we moved out of that home. So I haven't seen it in a while and I hope it's safe. But yeah, it was a project that I started in October of last year and I finished it in November. It is a modified version of the Maggie cardigan, and it was inspired by a cardigan that I saw on Pinterest. I have a whole Pinterest board dedicated to projects that are either projects that exist that have patterns for them, or they're just different sweaters and tops that I've seen on there that I would like to recreate as a knit. So that one was inspired by this cardigan. I'll put it on the screen somewhere. And the way that I approached it was I chose my preferred cardigan pattern, and that was the Maggie cardigan. And I chose that one because I've only knit 2 ever. I've knit the cardigan number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and then this one. And I guess since this one was so recent for me, I just felt like it would be easier to modify because I, had just gone through the process. So I would just have to change a couple things here and there, one of which being the texture. So on the cardigan that I found on Pinterest, there is this, how do you describe it? It's like this ridge kind of that runs down the front, the left and right front panels. And then I also decided to mirror this in the back because I believe, based on product pictures that I found, this texture was on the front and the back. I believe this sweater is originally from Anthropologie. I'm not sure if it's still in stock, but I found pictures and they have a bunch of different shades. I think they have like a gray color, tan, and then like a berry color. Or maybe I'm making that up. But I knew I wanted mine to be in a deep plum berry shade. So I chose this yarn. It's the Pearl Soho Good Wool, which is, I think, listed as a DK, but it's a little bit more on the thinner side. I held it single stranded, and I believe I used 3mm needles. So any of the needle sizes and things like that were called for in the pattern, I just changed them to fit the gauge of the yarn that I was using. And then to create that ridge, I believe I did just like a slipped stitch on the knit side, and then I would purl my pearls. Yeah, so slip on the knit side and then purl on the purl side. And that way you get this like raised effect. So that's what I did. I knit according to the pattern, just with my own like modified numbers according to my gauge. I basically just like used the swatch and I measured and said, okay, how many stitches do I have per inch? And then use that and the numbers in the pattern to kind of adjust. I still knit the size small and followed those numbers roughly. And I knit everything to pattern until I got to, like, I knit the collar and everything to pattern. And then I just marked with 2 stitch markers where I wanted those ridges to be. So I kind of just estimated like maybe like halfway in between, or like 2/3 of the way inwards from the outer shoulder on each side, and then try to find the exact same placement for the back. So on the front it would run here, and on the back it would just carry over. I knit everything to pattern all the way down to the arms, and then when I split off for the sleeves, I believe I modified the stitch counts for the underarm. So I think I casted on more stitches because my gauge was smaller, so I just wanted to make sure there was more space under the arms. And then for the sleeves, I ran into some issues with the stitch counts because I was conflicted on whether I should do the decreases as written or adapt them to the reference image. So in the image, the sleeves kind of increase outwards, and they're sort of like a bell-shaped sleeve. And I think I could have done a better job at the execution. I think what I ended up doing is doing no decreases for the entire length of the sleeve. But I think what I could have done is start to increase outwards, like at the halfway point, if that makes sense. Because I think the sleeves turned out a little bit tighter than I anticipated. Okay, I lied. I used 3.5 for the body, 3.5mm needles. But for the double knit button band, the cuffs, the collar, and the hem, I used 3mm needles. I also did slight modifications to the neckline that I didn't mention, just to adjust the slope. Because I was knitting on a tighter gauge, I wanted to make sure that the shape of the neckline still made sense. So I believe I continued to do the increases a few more times than written in the pattern. The cuffs, I ended up doing 3-inch cuffs so that I could have like a really long and eye-catching sleeve cuff. That was really repetitive, but you get what I mean. And I'm really happy with the final product. I think I could have knit the entire thing slightly larger because it's not quite form-fitting, but it's also not quite oversized. I think the body is like a little bit tighter than I wanted. And then the sleeves, I feel like the ease of the sleeves doesn't match the ease of the body of the sweater or cardigan. So it's not perfect, but it was really fun to experiment modifying a pattern. It was fun to experiment with modifying a pattern. And I feel like I learned a lot from the experience, and there are definitely things that I would do differently, but I still really love the final product, and I really like the yarn. The only thing is that the yarn does pill a decent amount. I think it's really soft, and holding it single-stranded means that it would kind of gather these pills as I was working with it. I'm not sure if it just needs to do like its first shed and then it'll stop. I haven't been able to wear it as much recently because the weather has been warming up, and then also because I don't have it here with me. But I think I'll be able to tell during next winter how the yarn holds up over the span of a year. So yeah, that is my first finished object. Okay, so after finishing that cardigan, I decided that I really wanted to attempt a colorwork sweater. So at the time, I had only approached colorwork knitting once. My first colorwork sweater was the Nova sweater by the Knit Pearl Girl. I actually haven't finished the sweater because I ran out of yarn for the sleeve, and I'm just really discouraged because I started it like 2 years ago now, or like a year and a half ago. So I just know that they won't have the dye lot that I need to finish the sleeve, and yeah, I'm still thinking about it. It's like, if I purchase the yarn, will I be able to live with the fact that it will change color slightly? I'm not sure. But after doing that, I found that I really enjoyed knitting colorwork, and I wanted to do an all-over colorwork sweater. So I decided to knit the Northern Augustans number 7, and that's a pattern by Anne-Sophie Belling. I started this in November of last year and finished it in March of this year. So let me show you the sweater. Please excuse the makeup on the neckline. I've worn this a lot since I finished it. Considering I finished it in early March when there was like I don't know, the weather was fluctuating so much. So it would be like 80 degrees one day and then like 50 degrees the next. I don't know, it was very odd, but I'm glad I got some wear out of this. But here's the finished sweater. It's like, it's so beautiful. For the yarn, I used the Knitting for Olive Merino and their soft silk mohair. For the light pink, I used the color Cherry Blossom, and then for this plum color, I used the shade Wild Berries for the merino, and then Plum Rose for the soft silk mohair. So yeah, I knit this on 4.5mm needles. I believe the pattern calls for 4, but I wanted to size up for the color work because I just had a feeling that my tension might have been a little bit tight based on the gauge swatch that I knit. So I just thought I would err on the side of caution. For the collar, the hem, and then the cuffs, I used a 3.5mm needle, which is called for in the pattern. I believe I did half twisted rib for the neckline, and then the rest of the rib was just normal. I just wanted to make sure that it was neat looking at the top. The other modification I made was I incorporated some short rows on the back after finishing the collar. I think I did about 1 inch of short rows, and then after I did that, I began the color work by following the charts that are provided. I found that they were pretty easy to follow, pretty straightforward. Yeah, I think I followed everything exactly to pattern. I did about 3 repeats of the chart pattern for the body, and then I did 4 for the sleeves. Another thing I should mention is that I had to shift the colorwork chart around for that lower portion for the body and sleeves, just because I believe in the pattern her beginning of round starts in an awkward place, and I wanted mine to start in the center back. So after I think it was after I completed the short rows, I shifted. Actually, no, I can't remember. It's been so long. But I basically took the existing charts. I went to Stitch Fiddle and I just copied the exact pattern, but just like shifted over a certain amount of columns so that my row 1 or round 1 would start like X amount of stitches over. I feel like I was able to do that pretty successfully. I didn't have any issues with the chart being shifted around in any awkward order. So I'm really proud of this. I think it turned out really good. And I'm happy with my tension, and the fit of it is really nice. It's my first circular yoke sweater, and I actually really enjoyed it. I don't think there's any bunching or anything, and I think the short rows help with the height of the neckline. One other thing I should mention is I knit a size B, and I think that's everything for this sweater. Okay, you may have seen a sneak peek, but that's okay. After I finished the Northern Augustins, or actually it was right when I was on to the second sleeve, I felt like I needed something new. So I casted on the Dagmar jacket, and I cast it on in January 18th, and finished April 6th. So I finished this pretty recently, and I think I finished way faster than I anticipated. I think because of the size of the needles, I used 4.5, and the cables are just really satisfying, and I just felt like motivated to keep going. Like, oh, I knit half a cable, how much more can I do? Oh, I'll just knit this much and then I'll be done for the night. But I would just keep going and going and going. It was really engaging. I really enjoy patterns that are easy to remember, like the pattern repeat, so I don't have to constantly look at the charts as I go. So there's still a flow, but it's like really engaging at the same time. So here it is. Let's button it up. So I knit this size large on 4.5mm needles. I used the Drops Nepal in the shade Off-White. I believe it's shade 0100. And I knit this exactly to pattern besides the left and right front shoulders. So you start by working what is that shape? Is it a trapezoid? I don't remember. But you knit the back, and then you pick up stitches along the shoulders and knit the left and right fronts. If you're familiar with the Dagmar jacket, you would know that the cables do not align from the back to the front. So what I did is I went on Ravelry and I searched to see what other people did to line up those cables, and I found that it was a really simple solution. You just, when you're picking up stitches, what I did is I picked up an extra amount of stitches. I think I picked up 2 extra stitches. I followed the charts as written, but just with the cables shifted over by 2 stitches. And then I would decrease those 2 extra stitches out on the next row, if that makes sense. So you're just shifting everything over by 2. And then I did the same thing on the other shoulder, and it just shifts everything over so that this triangular shape matches that diamond cable on the back. I feel like I could have explained that way better, but yeah, I think it worked pretty effectively and it looks pretty neat. I think I knit, let's see, 3.5 cables in length for the body. And then for the sleeves, I also did basically 3 cables. I did a half cable, 2 full ones, and then another half. I do think I could have knit the sleeves longer. For reference, this is my Maggie. I like when my sleeves go past the knuckle. On this cardigan, I guess I can try it on really quick. This cardigan kind of hangs out near my wrist, so let me just show you. Don't mind the sweatpants. But yeah, this is the fit of it. If you can see, I mean, it still comes past my wrist, but I find that when I reach out to do things, it kind of gets tugged upwards because it's a drop shoulder and that sleeve is like pretty low down on the body. But I still really like it, and I think it's still the perfect fit. Like I could wear a long sleeve underneath this if I wanted to in the wintertime and be very warm and cozy and comfortable. Yeah, I really like the ease of it. And I can, tug the sleeves down if I wanted to cover up my hands. But yeah, I guess I might as well keep this on. So yeah, that is my Dagmar jacket. My next finished object that I unfortunately don't have to share with you right now, but I can insert pictures, is the Frog by Claire Garland. Oh, also I forgot to mention, the Maggie cardigan and the Dagmar are of course by Petite Knit, if you didn't know already. But yeah, so I knit the Frog by Claire Garland, which is this tiny little stuffed toy, knit on 2.5mm needles. I knit this as a gift for a friend for her birthday, and I added like a little crochet basket accessory with a little crochet strawberry in there. So it's very whimsical, very cute, and a nice gift. Like I said, I knit this on 2.5mm needles using the Holzgarn Super Soft in Calypso and the Mystery Mohair, which I've talked about in the past because I used that same yarn combination to make my Lakes V-neck pullover by Ozetta. Oh, here is that Holzgarn yarn if you wanted to see the color. I still have so much of this left. I think I just bought one cone, which was like 500 grams, and I used it to make that entire sweater, and it's like super oversized, and I still have so much left. So not sure what I'll do with the rest of this, considering it's itchy. It's itchy. It makes me break out sometimes if I have it close to my face for too long, but on the body it's fine, and it keeps me very warm. And because it's oversized, I can layer things underneath, so it's perfect for the winter. But not exactly sure what I will do with this. I think I have to measure it out and see how much I have left, but yeah. It was nice to be able to use some leftover yarn to make that frog. I think for the belly, I used I think it was a cotton merino. I don't remember what it was called, but it was drops. And for the little eyes, I used these little safety button thingies that I got online. I didn't add the little backings on the inside. I think I should have done that, but I had already stuffed the frog and then inserted the buttons, whereas I think the preferred approach is to add the eyes onto the knit fabric, then you screw on the little backings, and then you stuff the frog. I believe it's a free pattern, if I'm not mistaken. If it is a paid pattern, it's very affordable, and you can use it to make however many you'd like. And it took me a few hours. I think I finished it like within the same day, so it's nice. It was a nice little bite-sized project, and you could add like little accessories. You could find free patterns online to knit or crochet little hats or sweaters for your frog. But yeah, I will insert pictures somewhere on the screen for you to see. But that's also something that I finished in early April. Trying to find a good place to attach that. Okay, hopefully you can hear me clearly. Now we're going to talk about some whips. I have two main projects on the needles right now. One is a sweater and one is a summer top. So I thought I'd just kind of show you what I've been working on. I of course have a bunch of hibernating whips that we won't talk about. And then I have some that are just kind of like on hold throughout the winter, but will be making a comeback. They will be making a comeback. I promise. I need to hold myself to that. But yeah, let's start with the sweater. So you may be looking at this yarn and thinking, that looks really familiar. It's that Pearl Soho Good Wool in that same shade, Fresh Loganberry. And I had a bunch of it laying around. I think I had like maybe 200 grams of it, or maybe like 150. And I thought, oh, maybe I could make a vest. But as I thought about it more and more, I just realized that I don't think I'm a vest person. I think I do prefer to have my arms covered if I'm wearing like a more boxy fit shirt. So I decided I'll just purchase more, and that way I can use what I have in stash. Interesting approach, but that's what I did. Because I did know that I had a project in mind for it. So I knew that if I purchased more, it would be going towards a sweater that I have in mind. So I casted on the Sonia sweater, which is a sweater that I've had in my project library. And I've also knit it before it was in drops yarn, and it was like this light pink color with a colorful stripe in the center, like brown, white, and light blue. I'll insert a picture if you would like to see. But I wanted to knit that again because I had ideas for making a modified version. I believe I knit the size medium, and I made some changes to the neckline. So for the original Sonia that I knit, I noticed that the neckline would stretch a lot over time, and the one that I have has an elastic going through. It's a double folded collar, so I added an elastic on the inside. But for this one, I wanted to make sure that I like a high neck, so I modified the amount of increases for the front panels, and I think I could have done a better job at looking ahead in the pattern and like figuring out the calculations before I actually knit it, but I kind of was just adjusting the numbers as I went along. So it's still a little bit of a wide neckline, but better than what it would be without any modifications at all. So that's the first change I made. And then I knit the body normally. For the hem, I did 2x1 rib, and I ran into some issues with the cast off or the bind off. I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to approach it because I've never actually done 2x1 rib before, but I was watching a video on YouTube, and I think her name is Bethany Glover, and she recommended after the 2x1 you do one plain row of stockinette and then bind off. So she said that that's what she usually does and it works for her, so that's what I did. And I feel like it was a much simpler way of binding off versus reorienting your stitches so that it's like knit one per one, because when I did that it just felt really bulky. And also I feel like it adds like a cool rolled over effect, and I think it'll be blocked out pretty nicely, so I like it. And then for the sleeves, I'm knitting them without as many decreases, so I did 4 decreases, and then I'm just gonna knit the rest plain. And then for the cuffs, I'm doing that 2x1 or 2x2. Oh my god, was this 2x2 or 2x1? Okay, I'm realizing I made a mistake. That's okay. So the hem on the body is 2x1. That was my original intention. This sleeve that I've been working on for the past couple hours in a hurry for no reason, I'm realizing I did in 2x2. So yeah, I mean, does it look that different? You can be the judge. Is it worth undoing? I mean, it's only a few rows. I'm just being impatient, so I might undo that. Or maybe not. I don't know. I honestly really don't mind imperfections like this. Like with my Northern Augustins, I think I bound off, or I knit the cuff of one sleeve with the correct needle. I used 3.5, but for the other, I was just so ready to be done and to like wear it. So I rushed and forgot to switch out my needles. I forgot to size down. So I bound off with I think I used a 4. So I still sized down, but just not enough because I just was not paying attention. And I still wear it a lot, and I don't think you can really tell. It's like something that only I can notice the difference in. So I'm gonna think about this and we'll see. Okay. Realizing mistakes in real time. But yeah, so the sleeve is knit almost to pattern. I'm doing 4 decreases instead of, I think it calls for like 10. And the reason I decided on that is because I don't want them to be too tight. And also, here's another mistake. I accidentally picked up 8 less stitches somehow. So I just decided, okay, we can count that as like immediate decreases, and then we'll just decrease less and do the rest normal. Yeah, I'm a very type B knitter, I think. I can be a perfectionist about certain things, but other things that I don't think impact the finished garment visually, I think I'm willing to let go of. Like with my Dagmar, I made a mistake in one of the honeycomb cables. One of them I cabled slightly too soon, so it's just smaller, but it's so tiny I can't even find it on here. It might be this one. This one? Yeah, I think it's just slightly shorter than the rest. But if I didn't point it out, would you have noticed? I don't know. Anyways, the last modification I'm going to make for this sweater is on the collar. I'm undecided if I want to do the original double folded, a single layer of fabric for the collar, a turtleneck collar, or some combination of those. Whether I want to do a plain stockinette collar, a ribbed collar with the 2x1, or something else. So I'm still undecided, and I think I'm going to try a couple things before I land on my final decision. So yeah, that is my Sonia sweater. And last but not least, I have one more whip to show you, slash yarn acquisition, and it's a top that I'm working on for the summer. So let me get that out. I love how it fits conveniently in this little pouch. So I'm working on the Rose Top by Matilda Rowan. Rowan? I never know how to pronounce her name, but she goes by Natilda Knits. Natilda? Oh my god. Oh my god, I butchered her name. Matilda Knits. She has a lot of patterns that I really enjoy. A few that I've purchased and started, but ended up doing other things. But this is the first one that I am like fully confident that I'm gonna finish very soon. So this pattern, it kind of references the style that I was talking about in my last video, like a simple top with like some sort of design element that's eye-catching. And that feature is the keyhole neckline. So it's got this cute little cutout. I don't know if you can tell from what I have so far, but there's that cutout. I had just connected the front 2 panels, and I just bound off the sleeves. But you have these little cap sleeves, and I have the neckline done. At the end, the pattern has you go back to sew down that tiny little edge. I don't know if you can see. But yeah, that's what I have so far. I'm knitting this using the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the shade Raspberry Red, which I think is a new shade. I really liked the yarn that I used last summer, the Raspberry Pink. So I thought, yeah, I need this in my collection. It's a really fun color. But I'm using it on 3mm needles, and I believe the pattern calls for 3.5 with a DK / worsted weight yarn. So to adjust the sizing for my gauge, I sized up to a size large, and I made sure to knit a swatch and then calculate my gauge and see if my stitch count per inch matched up. Like I tried to see which size it matched up with in the pattern, if that makes sense. So I calculated the stitches per inch for each size, and it seemed like the large matched up the best with my gauge. So I casted on the stitches required for the large, and I did like a really quick try on where I just threw it over my shoulders, and it seems to be going pretty well. The only thing that I thought was odd was when you bind off for the sleeves, it has you just reconnect the body and then you just knit as normal without casting on any extra stitches for the underarm. And I'm not sure if that's a mistake or if she just has really small arms, but I found that I definitely needed stitches cast on for the underarm. So I think I cast on 20 stitches for my gauge. That's why the stitch count is so high. But if you were using like a DK or worsted, it would probably be closer to 10 or less. Yeah, that's the only thing that I've modified so far. But with this amount added for the underarms, it seems to fit really well. So looking forward to getting some more progress done on this. I think all I have to do now is knit the rest of the body and then do all of the finishings that she calls for in the pattern. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this turns out. I'm also thinking of purchasing more yarn in this color, depending on how this goes. I think I want to knit a matching pair of shorts so that I'll have like a cute summer set. So I'll keep you updated on that. But that's it for now. So yeah, that was everything. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed and if you would like to see more, please leave a comment down below. Subscribe if you want to support the channel. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video.